Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about an upcoming knit along that I hope you'll participate in because it's going to be lots of fun. I'm calling it the Winter Stitch Sampler Knit Along, and it's the third knit along we've done since starting this channel. I'm excited to get started, and today I'm just going to take some time to review everything you need to know about the project, including when it's going to start, how long it's going to take, and what materials you need to knit along with us. But before we get into it today, my name's Holly. This is my channel at Yarn's Length, and here we celebrate knitting and crochet and crafting and traveling and basically anything that I'm interested in. So if you're interested in any of these things, or you just want to get a notification of when the knit along starts and when each piece is released, consider subscribing so you receive those notifications when we have new content. So for this knit along, the Winter Stitch Sampler Knit Along, we're going to be creating a throw, which is an Afghan or a lap blanket, however you guys want to think of it, that celebrates spring. I know it's technically the Winter Stitch Sampler Knit Along, but a not so secret about me is I really hate winter, and I just do my best to survive. So what I've done is pick a single shade of yarn and nature-inspired patterns. So what it kind of reminds me of is winter blanketing all the plants and animals, but with the promise of spring underneath, being able to pop out, toward the end. And if that's a little too symbolic for you, it's just a really pretty throw that's fun to knit too. This project can be completed by an advanced beginner as long as you have a working knowledge of casting on, binding off, increasing and decreasing, and you can follow along with the videos each week to show you exactly how to work the stitches. This throw is going to be made up of 12 panels. Each panel is knit separately and they'll be joined together at the end. I know what you're thinking, and I don't love seaming either, but I've done this for a few reasons, one of which is if you are just now watching this video and we're in week 2 or we're in week 7 or we're even in week 12, you'll be able to jump in right there and the project will not have left you behind. You can just go ahead and get started where you are and then go back to the beginning and knit the ones that you missed. The other reason is this keeps the project portable, so you can take your panel or your piece or whatever we're calling what we're working each week. You can take that with you when you go to the doctor's office or on a road trip or whatever else. And you don't have to worry about bringing an entire blanket with you, which is going to be pretty cumbersome by the time we get to the end of the project. The other thing is it's not heavy, so when you're lugging it around, you can use the same needles the whole time. You don't have to worry about flipping it in your lap once it gets to be a huge size. It's just much more manageable. So there are lots of different reasons that I chose to do it this way. If you take a look on my shelf, you'll see some pieces that I've actually been working on for this particular assembly. I did make the entire project in an antique white color, and the yarn that I used is Lion Brand Pound of Love. I used 3 of these, not the entire third one, but I needed 3 to complete the project. This is a medium weight yarn, and each skein is right around 1,000 yards. So 2,500 is about what you'll need to complete the entire project, and that's 12 panels, 2,500 yards. But not every panel is going to be exactly the same because the different stitches require different amounts of yarn, so you can't just evenly divide it if you're looking to use multiple colors. I would say add 10% for every color that you're adding, just to be safe, to be sure that you're going to have exactly what you need to finish knitting the project. This yarn was around $11 full price, but of course if you can get a coupon or something like that, which is what I did, you can knit the entire project for about $20. This is an acrylic yarn, and so if there's something else that you want to use, if you wanted to use a wool, or if you just don't have access to Pound of Love where you are, you can substitute any other medium weight yarn. Because it's a blanket, it's not really, gauge is not really super important, but what is important is that you maintain the same gauge throughout so that the project works. So using one consistent yarn or one yarn that you can work up in this, or multiple yarns that you can work up in the same gauge. One other important aspect is with the yarn that you're using, if you go up or down a needle size or change out yarns, you may need a different amount. So while gauge isn't super essential for a project like this, it does help determine the amount of yarn that you're going to use and matching that. So with that said, I used my trusty Chalgu circulars. I do recommend circulars. even though we are knitting 60 odd stitches, casting on 60 odd stitches per week, there are going to be weeks that we increase triple that amount, right? So we're going from 60 to 180 stitches and then back down to 60 because that's what the stitch pattern calls for. And your needles are going to have to be able to accommodate that. So even though we aren't working it as one big blanket, you do still need circular needles. Other things that you may consider for this project: stitch markers. They can help you when there's a particular pattern repeat several times over the panel that we're working. Stitch markers are a great tool for keeping your place, making sure you're on track. Also highlighter tape. I purchased some for a couple particularly not tricky patterns, but patterns in which rows look so similar when you're looking at the pattern on paper that I would frequently lose my place even though I was marking them with a pencil. And so I got some highlighter tape and that really helped with that. You'll also need a finishing needle just to weave in those ends and sew the pieces together. I actually seam mine with a crochet hook, so if you want to do that, a 5mm hook is something you can definitely add to your list, or if you already have one, just go ahead and grab that and have it ready. You can really seam any way that you want. I just think a crochet seam is harder to say but easier to do. As I mentioned, this project is knit into 12 pieces, panels, squares, whatever it is you want to call them. You'll hear me call them every one of those things from week to week. Once we've knit them all, we'll arrange them in a 3x4 pattern. It gives us a rectangle, so it's one piece per week over 12 weeks. The last week, week 13, I'll talk about blocking those pieces, positioning them, seaming them together, and if you want, you can add a border. I did not, but that's really up to you as to how you want that finished look to go. Part 1 of this pattern launches on December 26th. That's the Monday after Christmas. It's the day after Christmas. And I picked that because it's the first Monday. I like to do things on Mondays, get started on Mondays. It's the first Monday after winter technically begins. And I'm in Virginia, so we think of winter as something that started a month ago, maybe a little longer. But really winter starts, in the early 20s of December. So the 26th is the first Monday of winter for 2022. Yes. Week 1 will be available at 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. So that's 4 hours behind UTC, which I had to look up. So you can use that if you're somewhere else to calculate where you live. It's 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And then every week after that, the next panel will publish. So starting Monday, December 26th, and then every Monday for 12 weeks. So we'll actually finish right around the time winter is closing out and spring is starting, which is kind of perfect for the theme. And depending on where you live, maybe or maybe not perfect for time to complete a blanket or throw. But it's a lovely couch blanket for those cooler mornings or cooler evenings. And I think you could use it a little beyond winter. If you find that you need pattern support, I do have a Facebook group. I'm going to link that below. You're welcome to join and ask questions there, and I'll answer them, or whoever happens to be around might get to them first. Sometimes that happens, and that's really great to see the community jumping in and helping each other. Aside from technical questions about the stitch patterns themselves, one of the biggest questions that I get is, how do I stay on track during a knit along? And I think it's a loaded question, right? Because I don't think you technically have to stay on track to enjoy it, but I understand that people do want to stay on track because they want to participate in real time during the entire knit along. So for this particular one, based on the number of rows that there are each week, if you're knitting 14 rows a day, then you will be on track, and that's about 900 stitches. As I mentioned before, some of the patterns, the stitch pattern will increase in stitch number per row and then decrease again. So I say 900, but it's not technically 900 because sometimes you're knitting fewer and sometimes you're knitting more. But you can kind of keep that in mind as how to stay on track. And that's 14 rows, including your bind off, your cast on, whatever you need to do for that week. And of course, some rows are going to take longer than others, and some weeks are going to take longer than others because that's the nature of the stitches. They're all going to be different. And there are going to be some that you find easier or harder, and some that you find more enjoyable and less enjoyable, and that's going to affect your speed as well. But if you really want to stay on track, then that's what you need to do. If you're not worried about staying on track, that's great. Go at your own pace. Maybe do all the odd weeks with us if it takes you twice as long. You know, you could start every other week and then go back and do the even weeks on your own. It's really just up to you as to how you want to balance that out. The other question I get asked most frequently about knit alongs is, do you have a downloadable pattern? And this part gets a little tricky because I don't want to release the pattern early. Then every week is spoiled, right? And we're doing this knit along. It's a mystery knit along, so you don't really know what it's going to look like. You know it's going to be cream colored, but you don't really know much else. So I think I have a solution, and my solution is there will be a PDF version of the pattern available for purchase on the day that it launches. You'll be able to find a link to that on my website, and it'll take you to Etsy where you can purchase the download. This is from the beginning. However, the download's going to include 12 different PDFs, and each PDF is going to be password protected. So I'll release the password each week when the pattern is published for free on my site. In case you want to purchase the pattern, you'll have access to the one you can print out that's in a nice format, a little easier to use than from printing from the website. And you don't have to worry about going back every week and downloading or buying every week or anything like that. It's one purchase, one download, and then you just unlock them as you go. So hopefully this works out. Hopefully it's a solution that makes everyone happy, and no spoilers, but user friendly, right? That's it for me today. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps. And do consider subscribing, especially if you're going to participate in the knit along. That way, when you come back to YouTube every week, I'll be right there in your notifications and you'll see the brand new video.